Now, the next story I want to talk to you about is one that I heard about yesterday, and I just thought, my goodness me. Now, I love a game of football as much as the next person. In fact, on Sunday morning, my other half goes out and plays football in his local team. So I took my little boy, Jacob, along, and we went and we had a little watch of what was going on. And everything was quite nice, quite happy when we were at the football pitch. But you heard people walking away saying things about the referee. Now, referees in grassroots football games have experienced all kinds of physical abuse, verbal abuse, even death threats, right? So can you imagine what that is like, being a referee at a football game, having to put up with that every single week? Well, BBC Radio 5 Live's found that exactly that's been going on, and it's a shocking number of referees at grassroots football games that have been experiencing this. Almost 300 said that they'd been physically abused by spectators, players, coaches or managers. Hundreds of referees said they live in fear for their safety and they are dissatisfied with the current measures to tackle the abuse. Our reporter Taiba Ali has been to meet the team at Stockton Town FC to find out what they've seen.
We had a young female referee at the football club. She felt quite intimidated at the end by some of the opposition parents. She asked me to escort her to the car park at the club, which I obviously did. But apart from that, recently it's just been the odd verbal that we've had to deal with. But everything gets put forward to the FA, especially if anything happens here. At our club, our coaches at the moment are taught quite well not to do that, not to react. I think a lot of people do know the difference between banter and abuse. Swearing at a referee that's sometimes only 15 years old, I think most self-respecting people wouldn't shout at 9 or 10-year-olds and start swearing at them like that, but unfortunately people do that.
And we're joined this morning on the line by Nathan Sherratt from County Durham. He's worked with referees all over the world. Nathan, these findings, they've come out. I'm shocked by them, but how surprised are you, working in this industry, that this is happening every single week on the sidelines?
Good morning. I'm not massively surprised if I'm being completely honest with you. I think that, you know, we've seen it over a period of time now, and every now and then you get a sort of a really big case comes up. You know, just after lockdown, we had a big situation with Satyam Toki in London being assaulted, and that hit all the sort of the front pages in all the news outlets. And then more recently, we heard about a referee in the Northwest being assaulted, and then even earlier this season or late last season, we heard about a referee in County Durham being headbutted by a spectator. So I think it's happening all over. It's happening close to home as well, and we'd be naive if we weren't aware of it. And I think that's what starting to take the shock factor away. But it shouldn't. We shouldn't become desensitized to this, because as in the clip that we heard, obviously, before I came on there, some referees were as young as 14 or 15 years old. So we need to be realistic about the fact that at times it's child abuse, what we're actually talking about.
So then how do we train our young referees, doesn't matter on their age, I suppose, to be resilient to the abuse? I mean, it really isn't something you should have to teach them, but it does sound like something they need to be prepared for.
Yeah, well, I think, you know, a lot of the work that I do in my business as a team is based around resilience methods and strategies, and the reason why we have to do this is obviously very clear. The way that we have to do it is to prepare them for these situations. So encounters with club officials, such as those obviously that you spoke to at Stockton there, but also helping them deal with players and manage players and certain situations as well, because, you know, there's still a situation where you've got some young adults who are refereeing older adults. Obviously, you know, you spoke about your partner's football. That's open age men's football on a Sunday morning, and that can be refereed by, you know, somebody who's 16, 17, 18 years of age, and that can be really, really challenging and imposing, you know, thing for a young person to turn up on their own, to be surrounded by, you know, 22 players and then all the club officials and spectators that are associated with the two playing teams. So, you know, it's about giving them strategies and tools to deal with those challenges, and so they don't feel sort of intimidated.
I feel like everyone, when it comes to football, everyone's got an opinion. Everybody, it sounds awful, but everybody loves to blame the ref for anything. They're the one in charge on the pitch, and it feels like they're really having to take a lot of flack, and they're having to police this behaviour on a Sunday morning. And it's not what they're there for. Are you seeing a decline in people wanting to actually train up to be referees then?
I think that we'll always have, sort of a similar incoming and outgoing in terms of numbers of officials for various reasons. But I think that certainly in the past few years, there have been some very, very experienced, very, very high quality referees who've left the game because they don't want to be involved in what it entails any longer. And I think that that's a really, really sad indictment of what the climate looks like, in terms of players and club officials and people who are basically making referees not want to be a part of the game, because you have to remember that, to want to do this job, which is quite a demanding job, both physically and mentally, you've got to love the game, because there are challenging moments. And if that is outweighed by, the reception that they receive, being so negative that they're ready to sort of pack it in forever, I think, we have to really, really think about that.
Nathan, thank you so much for your time this morning.